I always knew what I was doing, and that I would have to overcome a difficult path, not an easy one. That I would have to make some sacrifices, sacrifice my time, sacrifice something in my life, my hobby, and everything else. I clearly knew that some kind of sacrifice was needed. Everyone says that this is not a very good feature, but in fact, in professions where you need a lot of dedication and constantly think about work, I know it is must-have, and I wanted to somehow realize it.
Это качество мне было, и мне хотелось вот его как-то реализовать.
Mother and I have worked with patients for a long time, but it was hard to deal with them. Throughout my medical practice, I worked in extreme medicine, that is, in emergency critical medicine. That means treating severely ill patients requiring emergency care. She was born and raised in a family of doctors. The whole dynasty on her mother's side related to this field. Her grandfather and grandmother were doctors. Once I asked Yulia, how is it possible that you studied well? Then you have become a successful specialist. And she replied that parents were role models for her.
I have been familiar with all this since I was a child. I grew up in a doctor's lounge, and I wanted to relate to this world, to help people, to save people. It was a big goal for me. It seemed to me that this is a matter of life that I really want to do and benefit people. I am such an altruistic person by nature, and I want to do something big. When I was finishing the school, we had a serious conversation with my family. My dad said, listen, there are many issues concerning this specialty, both in terms of payment and in terms of legal protection. So maybe you should consider some other options.
One of my close friends really wanted that Yulia would study economics in Moscow. They even had a conversation with her. But then we saw tears on her face, and she said that she would go to medical school. And then we agreed on that.
I graduated from school in 2005. This was the first year when enrollment was announced for studying a bachelor's degree program right after school within the Bolshak scholarship program. I even remember the moment when the head teacher came in and said that there was an opportunity to apply for such a scholarship. You could study in English, and whoever wants, bring documents. And to be honest, it didn't cause excitement, because at that time, all this in the realities of the Kazakh gymnasium school seemed surreal. Dad said to apply for, and I said, okay.
Yulia поступает в медицинский институт Астаны.
Yulia entered the Astana Medical Institute and started her studies. A month and a half later, she received a notification that she had scored enough points to study abroad within the Bolshak program.
I found out that I was accepted by chance. They called me from the Center of International Programs and said, "When will you come to sign the agreement?" At that time, I was sitting in an anatomy class. We had already taken colloquiums. I was such an excellent student in the group. I really enjoyed studying at the medical academy. I really liked all these anatomy classes. I say, why should I sign a contract? Well, they tell me, you will be accepted for studying in New Zealand. I say, how? I remember I burst into tears. Then I called my parents, crying, and said that I didn't really want to leave.
Новая Зеландия это так далеко. В итоге мы, естественно, были в каком-то...
New Zealand is so far away. We were astonished. She was too young. So we started discovering the country in more detail and knew that it ranks the 13th place in terms of living standards. So even though it is far away, we agreed. Then the group was formed within a few months, but she said no. I will finish my studies. And so she completed the first year of our medical institute. And then she said that it was easier for her because the programs were similar in some ways. Basically, she had only to translate into English. Having a basic knowledge was also a plus. Well, that's her character. She didn't want to just sit at home and wait for a direct call to study.
Поступит вызов уже непосредственно на учебу.
Everyone said, your program is medical sciences, when I went there and knew that I would not be a practicing doctor. But I also had no idea who I would be.
Первый раз я когда провожал, конечно, было на душе тяжело.
The first time I saw her off, of course it was very hard for me. We prepared permits for her to cross the border as a minor. And when I saw her off at the airport, she said, "Go, please."
Она говорит, да иди ты уже. Вспоминать не хочу.
I don't want to recall it, but she was slightly taller than the suitcase. And it was her first experience to fly for 35 hours. That's a very long time.
I had no idea that planes could fly so much. Then my mother learned to use the fly radar program. She watched the route in real time. They were very afraid, especially of a crash over the ocean. Our family used to joke on that. My brother's friend said, Yulia, if the plane crashes, don't forget to whistle. And I took it very seriously the first time. Why a whistle? To scare away sharks in the sea, he replied. In general, we said terrible things at that time, but it was very funny. And later, when I flew away, I always laughed and said, okay, the whistle is with me. At that time, there was no such clear definition of what is it like. Doing science, we didn't even know that such a thing existed. We thought that scientific institutes are some kind of echoes of probably Soviet past. We knew that there were some research institutes. For a long time, all my friends thought that I would be some kind of laboratory assistant. But after earning a degree, I understood that this was much more than just being a laboratory assistant. It was the scientific basis for something more.
Yulia is a holiday person, really. I don't know such positive people, to be honest. For her, a problem is not a problem. She always says, we'll cope with that, we'll solve everything, honey. She is open, she knows how to make friends, she is very loyal. She has a very keen sense of justice and is always aware of all events. She is always for what is right. She is the fairest person I have ever met in my life. I would describe her in one word, a very, very energetic person. As in life and work, she always has a lot of energy. Over these 9 years, I have witnessed how a young specialist being in love with science has turned into a researcher with her own project, a leader who has her own direction. Her students have their own grants that she implements. There are collaborators, including international ones. All this is carried out thanks to her energy and cheerfulness.
сентябре 2011 года мы поехали на стажировку.
In September 2011, we went on an internship at the McGowan Institute of Regenerative Medicine at the University of Pittsburgh. It was one of the leading centers in America, and studying there was such a great achievement for me. And in some way, it was luck for me, but that the experience we gained there in literally 3 months was huge.
Он был такой очень колоссальный.
It was decided to send us there with the goal that we would first, of course, learn new methods and approaches. Second, so that we would bring some new scientific ideas to Kazakhstan. We wrote a project accordingly, brought it to Kazakhstan, and continued to work in this direction specifically on stem cells, how they can be modified in order to use for the treatment of bone diseases, exactly those diseases that cannot be treated with conventional standard methods.
Сейчас с увеличением продолжительности жизни населения, то есть идет рост и...
Now, due to the increasing life expectancy of the population, there is an increase of age-associated diseases such as osteoporosis, gradual thinning of bone tissue. We tried to create targeted delivery of the patient's own cells to the fracture in order to enhance regeneration or accelerate regeneration, thereby facilitating recovery and rehabilitation.
Момент восстановления и реабилитации.
In experimental animals that received innovative treatment, their regeneration of bone tissue improved by about 60%. It is know-how in global terms.
Если говорить об аналогах нашего исследования по таргетной доставке...
If we talk about analogs of our research on targeted cells delivery to bone tissues, a similar patent was registered at the University of California, Davis. But the only thing they have is a slightly different mechanism for the chemical synthesis of this polymer, which delivers stem cells to fracture sites, but still not delivered to the clinic.
Тоже на клинику у них пока еще выхода нет. Юля этим проектом занималась с самого начала.
Yulia has been doing a project from the scratch, and these studies have been very consistent. She first started in vitro. This is when we worked directly in the laboratory. She slowly switched to working with animals, and so she will continue it. I think until its logical conclusion, I hope she will get a patent.
Она оформит, надеюсь, патент.
We have completed all preclinical studies, toxicological studies. The project is ready to begin clinical trials on humans. This is a long procedure. The procedure is not quick. And secondly, a GMP-certified laboratory is needed, where they could produce cells intended for use in humans. Well, we are working in this direction. I think we will do it in the near future.
We are often criticized that there is no translation of the technology because we do not have a sector of private companies that would invest in this development and then bring it to the market clinically. And I won't say that this is bad. We will somehow strive for this. I think that over time, a number of such pharmacological companies will be opened in Kazakhstan that will try to implement these developments or follow the news in science, like what research is being conducted, which of them may be promising, which of them may be beneficial and effective in terms of healthcare.
Могут быть выгодными и эффективными в плане здравоохранения.
Регенеративная молекулярная биология, регенеративная медицина – это завтрашний день. И я очень положительно отношусь.
Of course, we were worried regenerative molecular biology, regenerative medicine, is the future.
В общем-то, очень серьезные.
I have a very positive attitude towards their development. These are world-class developments, which are very serious, and they will have practical use. Well, imagine that the stem cells they receive in the experiment are carried out. If a fracture heals twice as fast in an experimental animal, then this can be transferred to humans in the future.
Значит, можно это перенести в конце концов в будущем и на человека.
The very topic of targeted delivery of stem cells is quite new. It all started about 10 years ago. We have also been doing this for about 10 years. And I think that there will be great successes and breakthroughs. It's just, we have accumulating all related knowledge and researches about how it all works.
In Kazakhstan, the majority of scientific workers are women. Even if you look at our laboratory, 70% of us, including me, the head of the laboratory, are women. And what distinguishes a woman in science? Women are distinguished by a more scrupulous approach, more pedantic, more careful. Plus, women are multitaskers, unlike men. They can solve many problems at the same time.
I think that such gender inequality does not exist in science. The only thing is that there are social matters that can be obstacles and hold back women who want to work in science. We all understand. We become mothers. We give birth to children. We need to devote more time to home. I have experienced myself. A woman in science is a master of combining incompatible things.
As for the Kazakh woman, she is a multitasker because women combine the roles of mother, wife, and daughter-in-law, and at the same time manage to be successful scientists. I believe that Yulia is one of the most promising scientists in Kazakhstan at the moment. As soon as Yulia received her PhD, she immediately applied for a grant and won 2 fundings. This is actually a big victory for a young scientist. She is a fantastic hostess. When you come to Yulia, she always sets the table and welcomes you warmly, so she can prepare out of nothing. She says, "Oh, I don't have anything in the refrigerator," but at the same time, she will set such a dastarkan. She always meets you, always feeds you, always supports you, and helps you.
A Kazakh woman for me is a symbol of superpower, I would say. When our foreign colleagues come to us, they look at our girls and don't understand how they manage to cope with all their duties. In Kazakhstan, lately, the ability to do everything has been popular, and we make it in time. It may not be as good as we would like, but nonetheless. Therefore, for me, a Kazakh woman is a superwoman who probably has another 24 hours left in addition to the whole day. I think that the strength of our women is connected with the family and tradition in its best interpretation.
Традиционность в лучшем ее понимании.